Hi, I'm John with Traditions Performance Firearms, and today we're going to show you how to load and fire your tracker inline muzzleloader. Before you do any other processes to the gun, always check to make sure that it is both unprimed and unloaded. To check with these to make sure they're unprimed, simply cock your striker to the rear, have your gun on safe, and that exposes your nipple inside the breech plug. And depending on where you're hunting and the kind of primer you're using, you could have a number 11, a 209 shotgun primer, or a musket cap in there. This one has a 209 priming nipple inside, and we can check the recess both visually and with our finger to make sure there's no 209 primer in there. Now that we know the gun is unprimed, the next step is to check and make sure we don't have a charge in the barrel. In order to do that, just simply rotate our gun up, muzzle pointing away. Take your range rod and run it down the bore to the hash mark that indicates that the gun is unloaded, and if that's flush with the muzzle, we know we don't have a charge in the barrel. If you have your field rod handy at this point, go ahead and run that down the barrel as well. And if it's about 1/4 of an inch above the muzzle, you know the gun is unloaded and there's not a charge. We're going to save that for later and use it again. The next step, after checking to make sure you don't have a load in your barrel and your gun is unprimed, is just to make sure that you clear out any debris or oil that might be inside the communication hole of your breech plug. The easiest way to do that is to take a standard 209 shotgun primer, seat that in the nipple of your gun, push that in nice and firmly, and you're just going to fire that primer off, and that'll blow all that debris and oil out of the communication hole and give you a more consistent ignition when you go to fire your gun. To fire a primer on your tracker inline muzzleloader, simply make sure that your striker is cocked to the rear. Move your safety to the fire position, shoulder, and just pull the trigger and fire. From this point, pull your striker to the rear until you hear it click. Put your safety back on, and use your depriming tool to remove your primer from the breech plug. At this point, your rifle is ready to be loaded and fired. Today, out of our tracker inline, we're going to be firing 100 grains, 250 grain pellets of IMR white hot powder, a 250 grain smackdown sabot, and a 777 muzzle loading primer. This 777 primer is excellent for being used with pelletized powder. It's a little lower pressure and gives a more consistent burn rate and ignition rate with relation to pelletized powder. To start off loading, simply just drop your 250 grain pellets down the bore. Next, take your 250 grain smackdown and seat that in the center of the bore with your hand. And once you have it centered in the bore, just transition over to your ball starter and just give that a push down the barrel. And your goal is to mate up the shoulder of your ball starter to the muzzle. Once you've got your bullet started down the barrel with your ball starter, you can transition over to either your field rod or your range rod. And with your range rod, just push that all the way down against the powder charge. At this point, you can also take your field rod and seat it down against the powder charge, and either take a Sharpie or a pocket knife and just scribe a line indicating where your ramrod stops with a full load. This will help you down the road with follow-up shots and any second or third shots you may need to take in the woods while hunting. Once you have a full charge in the barrel, seat it back in your shooting rest, and you're simply going to reprime your muzzleloader just like you did before. Take your 209 shotgun primer, and seat that in the nipple of your breech plug. Make sure your striker's cocked to the rear position. Rotate your safety from safe to the fire position, and you're ready to fire your gun.